has been elected as president-elect. Yay! So we had, yes, indeed, yes.
Thank you, David.
So we, as a committee and as a branch, are dead chuffed about this, and we're very, very pleased to hear the news earlier on. So massive congratulations to Louise, and best of luck sorting IOSH out.
I've got a lot of work to do.
You're going to be very, very busy for the next few years. Yeah. So now over to our presenter for today. If I just stop sharing, I can then ask Trevor to share. And as I say, Trevor works for the Post Office, lots of experience with dealing with domestic animals and animal hazards. So Trevor is going to talk us through how to deal with some of those issues. Trevor.
Hello and good afternoon. And hold on, I'm just trying to go into presentation mode here. That's it, they're into presentation mode. I'm also very, very pleased looking at the participants list to see that actually I've got a colleague on here who I invited, and his name's Mark Anthony, and he's actually a union rep, and probably my best friend as well. So he's on here as well. So hopefully later on he can join in with some of the questions that we're going to be asking and answers, and from a union perspective. And also he might be interested in the next one, talking about union reps and how they're dealing with COVID. But anyway, enough of that. Welcome, Mark. I know it's your first time here. So when animals attack, so what we're going to go through today is we're going to look at the size of the problem from the experience of Royal Mail key workers as they are and what they've had. We're not going to be sharing any sort of confidential information, but however, it's going to be an interactive. We're going to look at what we have done, the size of the problem, what we have done, and countermeasures, and just see how that's impacted on our experiences. So, animal attacks, how big is the problem? A lot of people that I talk to actually say, what, really, dogs? You know, they'll be surprised at the real impact, unless, of course, you work in public service, logistics, delivery, or distribution sectors. And of course, the general public will be forgiven for that. The size of the problem is what we're looking at, exploring dogs' behavior. We're going to look at other animals as well, and then countermeasures, you know, and then what we've done, what we've trialed, what we've done in the past, and what has worked and what hasn't worked. So size of the problem, a couple of dogs there, you know, we've got a little dog, big dog. Actually, it doesn't matter the size of the dogs from our experience. Sometimes the Jack Russells can be the worst with some of the attacks. Also, size of the problem hasn't been helped. And if you are, if you're old enough to remember then Dennis the Menace and the Beano, and that Gnasher was always after the postman. And a lot of people have thought it was more comedy, and you know, but actually it is a real problem. We see these on the media as well, you know, dogs chasing postmen. In reality, it happens a lot, and we're going to come on to that in a bit. So in the Royal Mail, we deliver to 29 million households every day over a 6-day period, Monday to Saturday. We have approximately 1,400 delivery offices across the UK, 66 delivery duties in each on average, not all, different sizes. But in 2018, there was estimated to be 85.2 million dogs in the UK. So our issue is dogs and the occasional cat, I must say. Now, when I say cats, I don't mean that kind of cat. Although, can I now go over to Alan? Because I think Alan's got an experience about cats before I move on to my next screen. Alan?
Yeah, thanks, Trevor. I think the moral of the story is expect the unexpected. I mean, in my experience visiting farms as an HSE inspector, you get used to sheepdogs trying to herd you up and nipping your heels, and the worst bites you get are terriers. But had an Alsatian appear out of nowhere once, latch onto my arm, so that's dogs. But probably the biggest fright I had, I opened a shed door in Basildon in Essex, of all places, and the last thing I expected to see was a lion in this shed. So there we are. Expect the unexpected. I've got to say, fortunately, it was in a cage and it wasn't loose. But yeah, the idea of domestic animals means all things to all people, perhaps.
Thank you, Alan. And also, I think David, you've got an experience that you wanted to come in here as well. David the Whiteleg.
Yeah, I mean, mine is through something else that I do with the police, and we've actually got an address on my patch, which is opposite a zoo. And you might say, well, you'd perfectly expect big cats to be in a zoo, and we absolutely would, and they are very, very good at looking after them. What was somewhat surprising was that actually a house literally on the opposite side of the road, when you go through the gate, has a number of cages on the left, and in there are a number of large cats, so lynx and was it serval cats and something like that. And I'm not a specialist on cats by any means, but yeah, it was quite a surprise to just basically see those in this chap's front garden, essentially. So they are around in different places. Trevor, just while I've got you, did you want the first poll up?
I'll come to that. That's coming in a couple of slides time. I'll call for that in just a second.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So when we say cats in the Royal Mail, we don't have those kind of cats. We more likely have these kind of cats. And actually, you'd be surprised because we've got a delivery address somewhere in London that is still suspended because of a cat. And I mean one of the cats on the screen now, a pussy cat. That as the postman goes past, swipes out of the window with its claw and has caused some injuries. Has caused injuries, and actually because the owner refuses to do anything about it, we've actually suspended the delivery. And as far as I'm aware, the delivery is still suspended until now. So we do have the the cat problems. We're going to come to David and Alan a bit later about there'll be a section on animal experiences in a little while. So now the first poll. What I'd like to do is just see, and this is a way that people can answer the poll, and without us knowing sort of, people putting their hand up and getting it wrong, just to have a guess. Each year, how many serious dog attacks are there on our Royal Mail postal workers on average? Not exact numbers, but on average, what do you think it is? And so if you could click now, we just have a look and see what the viewpoint of the participants of the session is. So how are we doing? Are we all in there? Do we have a result? Do we have a
We've got 84% of people voted. I'll give them just another couple of seconds if you haven't voted and you'd like to. We've got 4 of you that haven't voted.
I think one might be Mark because he's on the telephone. But Mark,
right.
Mark knows the answer to this.
And he will know the answer.
He'll
I'll
know
end that
the answer.
poll now then.
Okay.
I think we've got everyone we're going to. And so do you want me to share the results now,
Please
Trevor?
do. Please do.
There we go. There's your results.
Do you know what? I'd actually say 41% of you have got the correct, are absolutely correct. On average, 2,496 serious dog injuries. We're not talking about the little nips or the near misses, but yeah. So excellent. Well done. I have left the next screen blank because sometimes I skip on and there's the answer. Sometimes I click the clicker too quickly. So yeah, 2,496 on average, okay, in the whole of the UK, serious dog attacks. And actually that's quite frightening. I think that's that's comes to something like, I think 7 or 8 a day. 7 or 8 a day, So it is a serious problem, and it is our biggest problem. Dog attacks in 2018, just in one particular area, and as I said, I'm keeping confidential information out of this, but in one area that I looked after, we had 821 compared to 655 slips, trips, and falls. Now, postman falling over, has historically been the biggest one, but with dog ownership increasing, dog attacks is a serious problem. In that same area, lost time accidents where the employee could not return to work due to the injury amounted to 41. So it's a serious problem. It is a problem that that we're facing. Just a bit more information on it. So in that area, 38% of our accidents were dog attacks. We did have a reduction in 2019 from 2018, and we'll talk about some of the things that we did to reduce that. Here's the other thing, and I welcome your questions on the chat. I meant to say that earlier. If you've got any questions, and we can have a little bit of a debate about it later on, but because obviously from different industries we'll have different perspectives. But 70% of our attacks occurred on customers' premises, and the 18 other animal attacks were bees, wasps, and cats, obviously, and they have their figures as well, but dogs predominantly are, and we're going to look at some of the reasons for that in a moment. If we look here, there's another graph there about public location, customers' property, and on the customer's property. So we might be getting towards a little bit of a root cause here, and we'll actually see that in a bit. We also looked at the days of the week. Now, traditionally, the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are where most letters are actually delivered, and we call it traffic volumes. Our traffic volumes are the highest, and if you look on that graph there, actually they're the highest amount of dog attacks, and the full-time, part-time split as well. So, and just interesting to note there, on a Monday, more part-timers were injured on average. On a Monday. So obviously we deliver across Monday to Saturday 29 million addresses. So we in the Royal Mail, we come under the universal service obligation. It's a piece of legislation which says that we have to deliver to the houses, to all the addresses. Only the Royal Mail comes under the other delivery and distribution companies don't. So therefore, it's an offence to leave mail hanging out of the letterbox. Therefore, postmen try their best to get the letters through the letterboxes, and as a consequence, you see from the picture that I've used there, you see fingers slipping through. Just what do you think a dog would think when he sees that? When he sees the fingers come through? Well, some of us might remember this advert, but balls, sausages. That's what they see, and from the inside, that's exactly what a dog sees. We're going to return to this picture a bit later on in the countermeasures. So talking about dogs' behavior. So my history as a safety professional, and the reason why I'm mentioning this is because it kind of relevant from when I first started. 2006, I was a postman. I joined as a postman. In 2009, I became a project manager for our walk risk assessment platform, which was a new electronic platform we'll talk about a little bit later on. In May, because of my work on the walk risk assessment platform, I became a safety advisor in the Royal Mail, May 2011. I hadn't done my NEBOSH certificate yet. I did that in the September. And in the August, I had a serious dog attack. I was in the deep end. I was a brand new safety advisor. And I'm not going to show any pictures, and I haven't got any pictures of it, and I'm not going to say any names. But in Putney, we had a serious dog incident where a postman had let his fingers go through the door, and actually the dog had chewed the middle fingers off. Kind of as a result of that, we went and did some training, we went off to the myself and actually the head of the union, the Communication Workers Union's National Safety Officer, Dave Joyce. We were dealing with this incident and looking after the postman as best as we can. We actually met up on a Sunday in hospital with him, went to see him, because the poor fellow had lost his fingers. Because it was pre-2014, which I'll come to why I mentioned 2014 in a bit. There wasn't much he could do about the injury or the attack. So we went off to Wandsworth, dog wardens, and Dave Joyce and myself had a little bit of training. So we were looking at, we were being trained on dog behaviours. And one thing they took us through, now I don't have those pictures anymore from a long time ago, from 2011, but the dogs, they showed us these pictures of different dogs, and I've described the scenarios there. And they were asking us which of these is most likely to attack. So for my second poll, could I have another poll up now, please, David? Hopefully it's there.
Yep.
Can I have the second poll,
Yeah.
please? Or which of the answers do you think is the correct one when it comes to a dog that is most likely to attack, or dog giving an indication? If you could all vote now, please. And just while you're voting, I'm just going to get something that I've left over over in the other drawer, which I'm going to need. Just 1 second. So if you get your votes through in just a second, I will be back. It's something that I forgot to do. Okay, are the votes in?
We're up to 85, 88. I think that's as much as we'll get.
Okay.
Oh, no, up to 92.
92. So.
Okay. Anybody else? Quickly.
Anybody else? Last
2
moment.
people left. No.
That's a bit like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire asking the audience, isn't it?
Dudum.
That's countdown, I think.
It's countdown. Yeah.
That's countdown. Let's go. So.
There you go.
Wow. Well, we've got some incredibly skilled people here, because actually all of the above there, there was a red herring in there. We were being taught that all of the above has got 48% of the vote, and a lot of people did vote for dog barking wildly, tail between legs. And actually, I must admit, before the training, that's what I thought. So 28% thought that, and I pre-2011 also thought that would have been the answer. But actually, what we was taught was dogs may attack for many different reasons, and it's not always the behavior that they give out is an indication of that they're about to attack. Technology let me down. Hold on, let's click back there. Right, there we go. So we also taught about dogs' behavior and the body language, and it was actually explained to us that depending on different dogs, different breeds, different types, the behavior could mean different things for different types of dogs. So actually, we walked away from there, Dave Joyce and myself walked away from that session actually feeling, do you know what? We haven't got a way or a process that we can build where we can actually predict whether an attack's going to happen. And actually, that's one of the things that we've actually found as well, because out of nowhere there's been attack. I myself, as a postman, I think back in 2007, I was chased by 2 Rottweilers myself, and I just made it back to the van unscathed. So actually, you wouldn't be able to tell. And when I approached the cul-de-sac, the dogs were actually just sitting there and chewing on the bone and chewing on their bone, and all of a sudden they saw me, and off they went, like the picture I showed earlier. So when it comes to dogs' behavior and the body language, it's very difficult to tell whether they're going to attack. So from our experience, and I get this might be a bit controversial because there are a lot of theories there, and we welcome this debate a bit later on, but from our experience delivering to so many houses 6 days a week, it's not generally behavior that is the general root cause. It's a contributory factor, of course, but we find that the key root cause to a dog attack is that the dog feels it has a duty to, number one, defend their territory, because we're on their territory, defend their property, defend their owners, and we'll talk about something about that we found as well a bit later on as well. Perhaps it's a bold statement, but we've based that on dog attack locations, dog attack types, Royal Mail specific experiences that our postmen and women had, and I've interviewed a lot of them, investigated a lot of these accidents, and also from the Wandsworth dog warden training that we do. So although we do acknowledge and accept that the way a dog is treated contributes to the possibility of attack, from our experience in general, we found that it's territorial dominance. A dog likes to dominate you. And yes, how they're treated does contribute to that in a massive way. So talking about other animals, I'd like to turn to my colleague now, back to Alan, because I think Alan was going to come in and talk about some other experiences and some other input when it comes to not just dogs, but other animals. And then afterwards, David. So Alan.
Yeah, it was really, picking up on the lion story. I mean, one of the other typical guard animals you find on farms are geese. and they can be quite savage, and the sort of flock insect instinct to chase you off the premises exactly the same, and you know, various other animals like that. I think turning it round as well, dog owners try to protect their dogs as well, and thinking about domestic animals. I mean, in the farming context, the reason so many dog walkers are injured are actually because they try to protect their dogs, and the dogs are trying to protect them and barking. That excites the animals, and in turn, you know, they get stampeding or whatever, and they're really going for the dog. So it's turning the tables. I think that's an important point to bear in mind. Got a couple of other stories from my RIG colleagues, but we'll leave that till later. Tina has got a couple of acquaintances she has professionally who suffered, you know, from dog bites, that's for sure. I think, well, I've got another a positive note. We'll finish on later, Trevor. So I'll let you finish your presentation, put it all into context.
Okay. So David, I think you had another story or some information, or was this the point where you was going to get your colleague to come in and talk about?
Yeah, I was hoping to have a colleague of mine who's a police sergeant and a dog handler, just sort of talking about about dogs and other animals that they've dealt with, and obviously the sort of issues that they have with their police dogs. I challenge anyone, no matter how hard you are, no matter how tough you are, walk past a police vehicle and have the dogs bark because it's a dog van, and I challenge any of you not to jump out of your skin. And it's happened to me. I think the last time was actually at Lister Hospital, I simply got too close to the dog van, and they let me know that I was too close. The fact I was in uniform doesn't matter to them. So yeah, I mean, yeah, we're talking about when animals attack, but obviously they are also, particularly sort of police dogs, we use them for all sorts of functions, not just the sort of general purpose police dog, but drugs and money and all sorts of things that they search for, and of course rescue dogs that are all trained. And as police, we deal with abandoned dogs and dogs out on the loose as well, and they can be very, very tricky. There's all sorts of issues. We've had to take them off the main A10 just because there's a risk of them being killed themselves, but also causing serious accidents. So it was really just sort of to talk through the importance of training and controlling dogs, and actually knowing how to look after those dogs if you're going to have them. And obviously Mike would have spoken in a bit more detail about that from his view, his experience as a police dog handler. So that's sort of where I was hoping to. But unfortunately, he's got a dog exam today, which I'm not sure whether that was the dog taking the exam or him taking an exam with the dog. Not entirely sure, but unfortunately he had to drop out at the last moment. Yeah.
Excellent. And you know what, I think with our experiences as well, I think we'd actually agree with that. You know, when someone comes near the van, that's the dog being territorial, and actually that's exactly what lines up with our experiences. So thank you, gentlemen, for that input. Thank you very much. It just contributes to the animals, not just, we focus on dogs, and we do a lot because that is our biggest problem. So moving on, if we start to look at countermeasures. So what countermeasures, well, what have we done? In the past, and I think this is just before I was a postman actually in 2006, we used pepper spray. And I think when I joined, we also used high-pitched whistles and alarms. We found that they don't work. We've also, if you look at the last one, some of our postmen and women, especially, you know, in certain areas, used to take biscuits out to appease the dog. The only thing is that when they did that, if you've got a postman working 5 days, Monday to Friday, Monday to Saturday, one of those days is his rest day. When the postman that covers his rest day goes out and doesn't have biscuits, we found that the postman got bitten for not having a biscuit. So the dog's looking for it, expecting it, not getting it. So actually the person gets bitten. But we've actually ceased these measures for good reason. Number one, we found that actually they didn't work. They didn't, lessen the dog attacks. Number two, we found that actually certain breeds of animals were actually immune to some of them, and it would actually antagonize them, and it would make the attack worse. And I think the third one, I was speaking to a colleague who actually, through natural progression, I took over his role. So a very good friend of mine, works for St. John's Ambulance, Roger Rickson, his name is. Actually, he reminded me that in 2006-07, the RSPC gave us a warning about using these dog parents and the sonic alarms and all that. We actually had a warning, and we had to stop doing it from there. So that's what we used to do. So more recent times, before 2009, we used to use paper hazard logs. So on each delivery frame, we'd have a list of the dogs. But the problem with that, if a new dog comes in, somebody's got to retype it and put it back on the frame. So there was no governance or control. We also found it ineffective. And then this project I was talking about that I left Postman to become was called WRAP, Walk Risk Assessment Platform. And it was an Excel-based product. It was very good when it landed, and we still actually use it today. You electronically log the dogs, and the dog hazard actually goes out of date if nobody's looked at it for a certain period of time. So actually, it gave us a bit of governance to see which dogs, whether have we sent a letter to the house asking the owner to sort of keep their dog under control during delivery times, all of those kind of things. And actually, WRAP started to do a lot of good for us. But we found this wasn't enough because dog ownership was increasing. As I said, in 2018, the census of the dog owners, the estimated 85.2 million dogs. We found that this wasn't enough. However, along comes Dave Joyce, I mentioned him before, the National Safety Officer of the Communications Workers Union. And actually, he gets the credit for this. And I think he gets the credit because he had Royal Mail support behind him in a massive way, but he lobbied government, and he did this for years. And in 2014, there was important new legislation. There was a massive change to the 1991 Dangerous Dogs Act. It affected all dog owners, the person in charge of the dog at the time of the incident. And it came into force on the 13th of May, 2014. It was a new law, and the bill was called the Social Behaviour Crime and Policing Act, and it extended the Dangerous Dogs Act. Before this came in, if a dog attacked you on its own property, there was nothing you could do about it, unless it was one of the 4 dogs, mentioned in Section 4 of the Dangerous Dogs Act. Because then those dogs, which were banned, but they were technically banned, that you could still have them, but you had to have them heavily licensed. Unless it was one of those 4 dogs. If a dog attacked you on its own property, like my colleague, the postman that there was attacked, he put his finger through a letterbox on the dog's own property pre-2014. There wasn't much we could do about it. However, going forward with this new piece of legislation, harsher punishments for owners to make them more responsible at the time of the incident. And this could be dog walkers, dog sitters, family or friends. It amended it, but Scotland has its own laws. It was the first change in 23 years, and it will see far tougher dog control laws and sentencing. It included amendments to the Dangerous Dog Act, and now the prosecutor of owners for dog attacks would be anywhere on their own property, their own garden, literally anywhere, which opened up a different way of dealing with it for us at the Royal Mail. These new preventative powers, the dog owners would not only face longer prison sentences for the actions of the animal, but they'd be liable for prosecution regardless of where the attack took place. It allowed preventative powers for police and local authorities to, if they act early, to stop a dog attack. And the responsibility and the penalties were increased. And there's a key part that I've taken out. A dog doesn't have to have bitten to be deemed dangerous in the eyes of the law. It would have to be deemed out of control, which gave us that control. And what it did for us in the Royal Mail was owners' behaviour had to change. We do talk about dogs' behaviour. Actually, the owner's behaviour had to change. We then had a tool that we used that would analyse each dog attack for prosecution. And actually, the Royal Mail did go ahead and they did prosecute a lot of dog owners and and there were certain criteria that fitted that. We developed a zero tolerance. We'd suspend deliveries where there's been a dog attack unless the owner wrote to us with controls that they were going to put in place. So actually, we started to see a slight change in the amount of dog attacks. What did we do further as well? Well, employee focus. So we've got a poster here which is readily available in our customer service points and on the internet. We did briefings and huddles. We put dots on the frames to remind where the delivery postman or woman where the dogs were. Reminder cards of where the dogs were. We did D for dog. Sometimes on your letters you might see a D written, and that's where the postman's got the dog list, written D to remind himself out there, be careful, there's a dog at this address. We've developed these posters. Internally, we had pictures of previous injuries to say, look what could happen, because one of the cultural attitudes is that, and I think we've all got it actually, not just the Royal Mail, it will never happen to me. That's a big cultural attitude, and actually it's prevalent everywhere we go. People never think that these things are going to happen to them, so we sort of use those. We tailored training to our frontline employees about not approaching. We did gap analysis. We spotted patterns. So school holidays. Whereas when the children were at school, the adults would put the dog in a room or control the dog. Children would go, oh, it's the postman, lovely. Dog comes out, postman gets a bite. So we spotted that. So we did campaigns, and these campaigns and the poster you saw on the previous screen, we would actually use those. We've used campaigns where we emailed schools, where we've written to dog owners that we're aware of, and for extra help to control. But this was one thing I mentioned earlier about some of the dog's behaviour. So sometimes what we would do is we would say to our postmen in their training, if there's a loose dog in the garden, you don't go in. You don't go in. Okay, you're at the gate, you stay outside the gate, and you get the dog owner's attention. So then what we would do is we then had the phenomenon where the person would come to the gate, the postman would hand over the parcel, and a dog comes up and bites the hand because it thinks that the owner is being attacked. So what do we do from that with our training? We hold the packet, and we allow the owner to take it off of us. So little training, little things like that. That's what we've put our people through. So another thing, I showed you this picture before, and sausages. I've got to throw that one in. Sorry. And the posting peg, the Royal Mail's posting peg, and here's an act one. So with this posting peg, okay, what we would do is we would actually take a letter, and I will demonstrate with a picture of my notes on here, and we'd actually put it on there and post it through the letterbox and pull out, turn at 45 degrees, pull out, and this peg has saved a lot of fingers. I know, it would have saved my fingers. It would have saved my fingers, from any attack. I didn't have it at my time. We used to use, if we had a thick brochure to deliver, push that through to get the letters through. But with this now, we've got no reason for fingers going through letterboxes, as you see in the picture. A couple of pictures available from the web there. You can see this was a promotion that we had. This, I can tell you where this is available from, because it's although I helped to launch it in the Royal Mail back in 2011, 2012, this is actually from an external company. So if people would like to know where we get these from, ask the question later and we can come up with this. But now when the dog sees the posting peg, sometimes the dog would bite the posting peg. And actually we did have a story. It's funny, but it's not funny. Actually, I'm going to call it funny. One of my colleagues phoned me up and said, oh, Trevor, the posting peg doesn't work. And I went, why doesn't it work? He said, well, the letter went through the door, the dog grabbed the posting peg, we knocked the door to get the posting peg back, and the dog came out and bit us. And I said, well, the posting peg did work. I said, you shouldn't have knocked the door. We've got loads of these, we can produce them. So those kind of anecdotes and stories, we have a lot of stories. So we've also got this process called avoid. And avoid stands for avoid interacting with all dogs. So now with the zero tolerance, if there's a loose dog, postman doesn't go in and deliver, you try and get the owner's attention. If not, we endorse the mail, bring it back and try for redelivery the next day. Value yourself. We've got our postmen and women are incredibly loyal and dedicated. you know, and actually you see some of the stories of what, you know, their heroic acts in the community, and they've got relationships with the customers, but they go, oh, I'll take the risk, I'll go in and do. No, let's value ourselves. Observe, keep your walk log up to date. So this RAP program, report to us new dogs so that we're aware of them, we can just keep an eye out. Inform others. Defend yourself if necessary using delivery equipment. So sometimes our delivery pouches will put it between us and the dog, and you know, if it's a dog that's come from around the corner or something like that. This is one of the things that we train our people to do. We've also public campaigns. We've gone on to public campaigns. 7 postmen and women are bitten every single day. Here's 5 ways that you can keep our, as we call it, Royal Mail family safe. Number 1, make sure that children don't open the door to the postman. Number 2, train your dog to move to another room before the postman arrives, or actually physically, I think more, put the dog in the other room. Occupy your dog, the food or a toy, while mail is being delivered. If this is not possible, invest in a cage or an external letterbox. Sometimes after a serious attack, we've insisted on a cage or a letterbox being outside. And finally, ensure your dog has a collar, a tag, and an up-to-date microchip. And you know, this was endorsed by the Royal Mail, the CW, Parcel Force, one of our companies, and Unite the Union as well. So we actually, you know, we sent these to customers. We've got these posters displayed. So we've done an incredible amount of work. In our caller's office, when someone comes, we have posters up. So the posters you've seen, we've had them up. When they come, we ask them if they've got a dog. The postcard at the bottom left-hand corner, we've actually sent out. We bought thousands of those, and we've sent them to people's addresses to, if you have a dog, please hear our plea. We've done an awful lot of work to reduce dog attacks. We've also created an interactive tool with training for post-attack with our postmen and women, where we take them through scenarios and what would they do next time. And we're trialing virtual reality. We're trialing this at the moment. This is not our actual one, but we're trialing virtual reality, which puts the postman and woman in a scenario to sort of see, so that we can sort of coach our cultural behaviours as well. So we've been on a journey. We've done a lot of hard work. We've looked at countermeasures that have worked. We've looked at countermeasures that haven't worked. We've adapted our ways. Have we eliminated dog attacks? The answer is no. Have we reduced them? Absolutely, yes, absolutely. I think we were averaging 9 or 10 at one point in the 2013, 2014. I think we're now looking at sort of 8 or 9, 10 per day. We're now looking at about 7 per day. So they are coming down, and the attacks. But the problem that gets on that is that the dog ownership is going up all the time. So that's where we are, and those are the countermeasures that we have done. So I think it's now time for questions and answers, and thank you very much for your time.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Trevor. Very interesting, very useful. Oh, look, Louise has got a hand up straight away.
No, I'm just clapping. I thought that was excellent. I think there are some questions in the chat box though, David.